Welcome in, everybody. Joe Quills here with you on this Monday night. A busy night down at the ballpark, and busy night for me. Apologies for showing up late. Um, I just didn't get started in time. I had to make an emergency run to the store, but we're here and we will give it our best here tonight. And let me get rid of that. And we're all set here for this Monday night here. Got a lot to talk about here. And as always, if you want to add something, feel free to do so. The chats are open on YouTube, on X, and on Twitch. And a lot to talk about here, as you can see there on the bottom of the screen. CeeDee Lamb got paid. White Sox are trying to do the impossible and lose more than 120 games somehow. UConn, an interesting story popped up that I'm going to share. So much that it even shocked SJ when I mentioned it to her. Deion Sanders, even though he was a good media guy, he's acting like you know you're not good enough to talk to me. I'll tell you about that. And also Danny Jansen makes MLB history today. I'll tell you what he did when we get to that here. And I have to get that article here. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. So we'll get into that and more. And, if you guys want to add something, feel free to do so in the chat. We'll have some fun here tonight. And also, I'm off tomorrow. So that means we just shoot the S for a couple hours afterwards. We'll do that. So, so hope you've been reading my articles, Quills Picks Winners, on the Bleacher Brothers page. And, the best way to do that, if you don't go to bleacherbrothers.com and look for it, the other way is to follow me on X at Joe Quills. Just to let you know, I had a horrible day at Parks. They had their Pennsylvania day at the races and a couple of races where I thought I was home with the winner. And here comes a horse on the inside where the rail is usually dead, more dead than O.J. Simpson. But, you know, that happened a couple of times. But I did give you 3 winning wagers today. Not 1, not 2, but 3. I gave you the winner in the 9th race using that transitive property thing that I was mentioning on the Also Eligible show on Saturday. I also gave you a daily double. It was originally supposed to be 1 in 12, but there was all kinds of problems with the turf course after running it on Saturday. They deemed it was unsafe and nobody wanted to run on it, so they had to move the races to the main track. And this horse, I said, too, would have an insane advantage if she ended up running on the dirt. Well, she ran on the dirt. She won by a football field. So you got 2 win wagers and you got a daily double. I think it was something like $170 you would have gotten back, $150 to $170 profit. So you're welcome. And if you didn't, you missed out. But we're up to 14 winners on the month. That's my record high so far in a month. And, I've been picking extra races this month because of the fact that, we've had so many great weekends. I end up running 3, 4, 5 races at a time that, I just start typing in preparation for Also Eligible and boom. But hope everybody is um, catching those articles because I am on a roll lately, and hopefully I can stay on there. But you're only as good as your last day's worth of races, and you can start an ice cold streak tomorrow. So, but anyways, Phillies and Astros are 2-2 in the 10th in the down at Citizens Bank Park. First of 3 games, and they got one. It appears that they got one more tough week of the schedule, and then the schedule does ease up a little bit. So As long as you win 5 of 7 and 3 of 4 over the Braves is part of that 5 of 7, you're home free with the division, if you ask me. Uh, but you know, but um, but going back to the horse racing stuff that I mentioned. Um, if you watch the Saturday show, also eligible, and if not, why not? AJ had a couple of good winners, and everything I picked seemed to finish second or third. Now Friday, when I redid the Woodbine article, I had 3 winners, and I just missed on a fourth, and I would have, and I missed out on the pick 6 because I had 5 out of 6. That would have paid me about $10,000, I think, because the one that the winning ticket with the 50, 60 to 1 shot that won, that fueled the $67,000 pick 6. So, but it happens. But check out tomorrow's article. I'm going to try to get that up tonight, even though I will let you know ahead of time it's a night race. So, I think you know where I'm going with that. If you are a follower of the Quills Picks Winners articles. So let's get to it here. Um, Football is underway. The preseason is over, and oh, by the way, here comes CeeDee Lamb signing with the Dallas Cowboys. And this is after I saw this morning that Jerry Jones does not want to hire a GM because there's nobody as good as him, whatever he said. But CeeDee Lamb agrees to a 4-year deal, $136 million. Now, mind you, since he's in Texas, he's getting a little more bang for his buck because of the fact that they don't have a state sales tax in Texas. So, but he ended his holdout today. He's going to be the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Um, he gets a $38 million signing bonus, the largest ever given to a wide receiver, and $100 million guaranteed. Wow. And the numbers are mind boggling, but you know what? Those numbers are just going to go up higher and higher. I think there's a new contract coming up soon, and that's going to drive up the salary cap as well. The revenues are going up. You had that. I think you're far enough away from 2020 now where the the salary will continue to grow and grow. Whereas, unlike what I think with baseball, I still think that baseball will eventually hit a ceiling or the bubble will burst, however, whatever you want to call it. But um, I just think that football will continue to have a higher salary cap, obviously, because people go to the games and TV contracts and all that stuff. So um, now Justin Jefferson tops the market at $35 million a year. He signed his contract over the spring or summer, I believe. Um, AJ Brown checks in at 32 million. Amara St. Brown at 30.003 million. I mean, that's almost like trying to think the one guy in baseball that had a specific number. Well, I know Jonathan Papelbon. He had a contract which was however many million dollars, and then $58 at the end of the contract, whatever the total amount was. So he did that. Um, so Lamb will be the highest paid wide receiver in Cowboys history, which is not a surprise. With not only the history of the Cowboys, also the way that salaries continue to rise year over year, you are going to see that. I mean, just to give me an idea of how much salaries have gone over the last 5-10 years or so. Amari Cooper in 2020 signed a 5-year, $100 million deal with $40 million fully guaranteed. In 2015, Des Bryant signed a 5-year, $70 million deal with $45 million guaranteed. So those numbers keep getting higher and higher. Um, Now, but the thing is, because CeeDee Lamb was a holdout, he could be fined more than $3 million. However, the team has the ability to rescind the penalty since he was on his rookie contract. Now, I don't know if I believe that is part of the collective bargaining agreement. So, you could say, hey, all right, we're in good standing, right? Okay, we're going to rescind this. But after Phillies win 3-2, Bryce Harper does the job, and Joel Embiid was in the crowd, and he was taking pictures and video. So Phillies win 3-2 and 10 over the Houston Astros down at the ballpark. So yay Phillies. So anyways, going back to this here. So I don't know if he was on his second contract, is that something that if they were fined, it's like, can't do nothing about it. You got fined. But I think that would be, um, I think that would be uh, to keep a good working relationship with your players to say, you know what, we'll rescind it for you. We we could let you lose 3 million, but we won't. But that's just me. Um, so the Cowboys had 3 practices this week at the Star in Frisco. They'll work in Lamb into action smartly after he was not in training camp in Oxnard, California. Now he was continuing to work on his own, but working on your own versus actually doing football activities is two totally different things. But the club wants to reduce the risk of any type of injury leading into the September 8th season opener against the Cleveland Browns, or as I like to call Cleveland, the Brownstains. But um, now Lamb has proven worthy of the number 88 worn by Hall of Famers Drew Pearson and Michael Irvin. Des Bryant also wore that number. Cowboys never expect them to be available at number 17 in 2020. They had him rated as the sixth best player that year. Now, in 4 seasons, Lamb has 395 receptions, 5,145 yards, 1,800-yard games are the most by a Cowboys receiver. He set team records last year in catches with 135. SJ, I see you're lurking around. And no pineapples yet, just oranges and bananas or cucumbers. Um, yeah, you don't want an orange. You want a banana or a cucumber or maybe some sausage. But what do I know? Anyways, um, now the one thing that makes CeeDee Lamb such a great player is he can be placed all over the field. So you can put him in the slot if you wanted to. You can put him in his normal spot, whatever. So he had 499 snaps in the slot with 69 catches for 907 yards and 12 touchdowns. So, it's hard to play defense on him because you never know where he's going to line up. That's a sign of a great player is when you can do those variables. So, um, now he did sign it. The Cowboys did approach him last year um, for an extension, but talks never really progressed. He skipped the voluntary off-season program for the first time this year. Now, but the interesting thing here is what happens with Dak Prescott? Because his contract expires after the season. Now, the team wants to sign him to a long-term extension. However, he can hit the open market at the end of the year because the Cowboys cannot use the franchise tag on him. So it may be Dak may say, F you, Jerry, but I get the feeling something's going to be done because you probably will have to wait till after the season when you start getting the numbers and you start seeing what the salary cap is going to be and you project out, you know, what you have here, and everything like that. So um, it's not going to be something that you're, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go elsewhere, but I wouldn't be surprised if he stays in Dallas either. So nothing would surprise me. If my guess is, I, I mean, I guess it all depends on how Dak does this year, and if he has a great year like he did last year, except for the wild card loss, which everybody enjoyed, even SJ. I know she enjoyed it because we may be rivals in football, but we have one thing in common: we both hate the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah, um, so um, so now the Cowboys' attention in terms of contracts go to Dak Prescott. They've had talks during the summer, but they say that um, things are going in the right direction. So who knows? You never know. He may pull a situation where I'm not negotiating anymore because it's the start of the season. F you, Jerry. But we'll see. So CeeDee Lamb got signed, and be interesting to see because I think Dallas is still going to be a thorn in the side of the Eagles. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles and Dallas split again this year because they always seem to do that anymore. But the more yeah, I mean, you don't wish injury on anybody, even a Dallas Cowboy. But I'd like to see you know a couple of good football games this year between Eagles and Dallas, and hopefully, for example, Crossing Broad will get their heads out of their ass because last week or 2 weeks ago, and I had the story ready to go, and I forgot all about it. They decided to post an article, and I said must have been a slow work day. And good luck to anybody who's on my Facebook friends list to find that comment I had when I shared it. You know, it must have been a really slow day at Crossing Broad, and I know we're Bleacher Brothers, and Crossing Broad is um, the top, probably the top blog site slash sports site of that type, at least in the area. And it's a slow work day when you're bitching and moaning about a game in December not being on Fox but on CBS. Well, the one thing I said to them was, "Hey guys, I know the NFC's been on Fox for like 25, 30 years now, but if you watch some old YouTube videos, you will see that the games were on CBS." So, but you know, hopefully, hopefully we will get some good football between the two teams. But hopefully the Eagles do just a little bit better both times, and hopefully SJ's Giants actually pretend to be half decent. But so so that was an interesting, but that was an interesting news that popped up this morning. I think that came up early this morning. Well, this article is from 2 o'clock, so I think it was early in the morning, and then they just filled in the blanks as day went along. But so that's going on in Dallas. Now on the baseball. Um, oh shit! There goes the neighborhood. Mike's here. Hey, Mike. Now, so on the baseball here, and we're not talking about the Phillies win, even though I'm all decked out in my Phillies gear, even though my hat's like going in 18 different places. Um, the Chicago White Sox. Congratulations to the Chicago White Sox. Hashtag sarcasm. Is they lost their 100th game last night or yesterday. They lost to the Detroit Tigers, and they're in the final game of their series tonight. I can actually use my TV here. Um, the White Sox are actually winning 2-1 in the sixth right now. So we'll see if they can stay at 100 losses because they're they may have a chance of breaking the record for most losses in a year, which is 120 by the inaugural New York Mets. But um, but with the 9-4 loss to Detroit, uh, the White Sox went dropped to 31-100 on the year. They need to go 12-19 to try to avoid the Mets for most losses in a year. The Mets went 40, 120, and 1. Now, the one thing uh, that is hidden in the stats is that you had tie games in baseball. And basically, what would happen is, um, let's say you got to the seventh inning, it was a tie game, and the rains came. Now, the rules of baseball now, if that happened tonight down at the ballpark, even though it's not going to rain till I think Thursday here in the Delaware Valley, um, the game would be a tie, and you would have to replay the game from the beginning. So I think this was changed a couple of years before the pandemic. So this was a pre-pandemic rule. Um, if a game was tied in the seventh inning, sixth inning, in a game where it would normally be official, the old rules were it's a tie, you play again. You continue from where you leave off. Now, also, the old rules of baseball, and I think this one was a 2020 pandemic rule. Um, if you have a game that starts and it goes into a rain delay, like the story that I'm going to mention next, no matter the score, no matter who's winning, who's losing, if the game's not official, it's a suspended game. You continue where you leave off. So we'll get into that story in a second. But back to the White Sox here, as we're talking about that in the New York Mets inaugural year. Um, so they got a chance of breaking the record of the New York Mets of 40, 120, and 1, the most losses in the modern era, because in 1899, the Chicago Spiders went 20 and 134. And, even back in those days, it's impossible to lose 134 games, but they did it somehow. So, so they, you know, it happens every once in a while, and I'm a person where if you're that flippin' bad, even though I did drop a curse word already, um, if you're that bad, you don't belong in Major League Baseball. You can tank, even though you can't even get the number one draft pick. From what I understand, they can only be the best draft pick they can get is 10th, I believe. And I forget where I heard that. Probably, I think it was probably one of the Action Lab streams, whether it was him or the baseball show that they do or something. I don't know. I think it was something with them. But you know, when you're a major league franchise and and you lose 110, 120 games, no, you don't belong in Major League Baseball. But the thing is, and this goes back to Branch Rickey, and I'm not blaming him for this, so don't put two and two together. I just think what Major League Baseball needs to do is go to promotion and relegation. But the only problem is the way baseball and basketball is set up this way now, and hockey set up that way. In the United States, we don't have promotion and relegation. We have um, a farm system, and with baseball, you have major leagues, AAA, AA, high A, low A, rookie ball, and then you have the independent leagues where you can rate them however you want. But um, I mean, my opinion is I would love to see promotion relegation in baseball. You have to play at this 15,000 seat stadium because, well, that team in Lehigh Valley, they've been destroying everybody in AAA all year. They get the chance to make more money. And who knows, maybe when you make more money, you can build a new stadium and stuff like that, or add on to the stadium, things like that. But, but it's not feasible. So, anybody that's watching this, it's not happening. I know it's not going to happen. It's one of those what if things. What if Major League Baseball was just one giant baseball ladder. And oh, White Sox, you ended up 41 and 121. Boom, AAA or whatever we would call AAA. In my world, it would just be called League One. And whoever, I mean, you would have two teams that go down, and then you would have two teams come up, the International League champion and the Pacific Coast League champion. They would come up the major leagues, but it's not happening. It's not going to happen. But because we have that farm system set up where you develop your players over a couple of years and try to get them from rookie ball to low A to high A, double A to triple A to the majors, because you develop the players, because you know with the way baseball is, it's probably the biggest jump when it comes to sports from a top amateur finger quotes league to the pros. I mean, hockey, if you're a first round draft pick, you're expected to play in the NHL, unless, of course, you're stuck in Russia or something, or you're stuck in college. Um, Basketball, it's just a matter of the maturity of the player, because a lot of times it's a cash grab, and it's with basketball, it's all socioeconomic. And, some people are like, well, I will just, I'll go to college for a year and I'll go pro. But everything now with college with NIL, you could have so much different stuff going on now. I mean, you can go to college and you're projected as a 1 year player, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm making $5 million a year here in nil money. Guess what? Even though I would want to go pro to get that second contract, because you want to get that first contract in as soon as possible. So when that contract runs out, you get that second contract. That's where you get paid. But do I want to make 3 million in the NBA, or do I want to make 5 million in college and also be the big man on campus, get every chick on campus? You know, as long as you don't turn into um, Tyreek Hill and have more baby mamas than you can count. Uh, but yeah, so but but baseball, football. There's a reason why you have to sit out 3 years, and it's to protect the players from getting them severely injured because you grow a little bit as a man and you get ready to deal with those professional hits that you don't see that often in college. But the pros, I mean, you got kids that go right from high school to the minors. You got kids that go right from college to the minors, and the Paul Skeens thing, that's an aberration. And I'll tell you why. Every once in a while, you get a player who spends like 6 weeks in the minors at that, and next thing you know, he's in the majors. That does not happen all the time. So, but you develop your players, you make sure they're ready to succeed at that next level, and you bring them up. And, you know, and with the case of the White Sox, I don't know what the heck they're doing. Now, mind you, they only have a couple years left on their contract or their lease with, I believe, I'm not sure if it's the city or the county with Guaranteed Rate Field, the stadium formerly known as U.S. Cellular, formerly known as Comiskey. So now, just when you think MLB has all those fires out, so to speak, with Tampa Bay getting a new stadium, Oakland eventually moving to Vegas, which I still think they're not moving to Vegas. I just get that funny feeling. Um, you do have that fire kindling a little bit, where there's smoke, there's fire, that sort of thing. Now, they do have a plot of land that they're looking at to build the stadium. Now, it's on the south side, but it's closer to the downtown loop area. So maybe a good spot for them, but we'll see. But I think they got 4 years left on their contract and on their lease, and that's why you start doing things now. Because if you don't do it now, you're going to be in a situation like Oakland is, where they're going to Sacramento for 3 years because they have the unprecedented situation where they're moving to a city that does not have a major league ready stadium. And you could you could say, hey, why don't they move into a Legion Stadium? Well, it's not built for baseball. Now, you would have to do some major renovations, which aren't going to be worth it. Now, also, I can tell you for a fact, if there's an extreme weather emergency in Minnesota, you could move the Twins indoors across the street, I believe it is, to US Bank Stadium, because I have seen pictures of the University of Minnesota's baseball team playing there, and their setup is almost like the Metrodome. But I do think that um, Oakland doesn't have that backup plan in Vegas because there is no major league team there. There was never a major league team, and Vegas was never thought to be a major sports city, a team that could support a major franchise until the Golden Knights were brought into existence. And I'm sure many people were wondering, well, why are you doing that? Well, guess what? You grew the game in Vegas, which they try to do everywhere. And now the NHL has the task of growing the game in Utah. And I still think that the Utah nickname should be the Storm and Mormons, but what do I know? But going back to the story here, as I went on tangent upon tangent upon tangent, and trust me, Mike knows all about that tangent thing that I do. It's like, you know, he's just like, I'll just shut up and let him talk. But there was one team that reached 100 losses in less games, and that is the 1916 Philadelphia A's. Ironically, I was talking about the Oakland A's. because they moved from Philly to KC to Oakland, and now they're going to Sacramento as a pit stop on their trip to uh, Vegas. It almost looks like a Southwest flight chart. If you go and you search like Southwest flight 2469, and I'm purposely saying 69 just to get SJ's attention. If you if you were to do a flight, search a flight, because when I go flying anywhere, I'd like to see like the recent history. Like, okay, it was late for a half an hour, but there was no weather. What the going on there? So, um, one thing I would say, especially if you're going to pick somebody up at the airport, and I told Mike about this a couple of times in the past. If you Google the flight number, one of the first links that'll come up is a site called FlightAware. And if you click on that, you can watch this icon, this flight icon, going across the country on your screen. This little dot, boop, 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 boop. And next thing you know, um, I'm not sure if that's the FlightAware thing or me going off on tangents, but typical me. It's a typical me show where all of a sudden I'd start going off script and talking about 18 million different things, and Mike says it's both. So, so, um, but the 1916 A's were 29, 100, and 1. So once again, they had a tie in there. I think those ties back then, they were ties because of darkness. Because back in 1916, there were no lights on stadiums. There were no lights in stadiums until the 30s in Cincinnati was the first one. So they did it in one. The A's did it in one less game than the White Sox because the A's did it in 130 games with that tie. The White Sox did it in 131. So um, now White Sox outfielder Andrew Benintendi, he said this a few times. We've been talking about all year. It's beating a dead horse at this point. But yeah, I did not give you any dead horses today with my Quills Picks Winners article. I gave you one, two, three winners today. I gave you the winner of the ninth. I gave you the winner of the 10th, even though you had to read the caption I put on there. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Man, you're gonna make me pull up my Facebook, ain't you? Hold on. Sorry, I had to comment on something there. Bank Boy, welcome in. Um, I do not give any losers. My bank book confirms it. You do not. Hopefully, you did not play my 5 races I had at Saratoga because, man. All right, SJ, what I'm about to say, the code word does not count here. So do not give Mike one of those, okay? Um, I will tell you right now. I mean, Saturday, after having such an amazing day with Woodbine, man, it was like I was in hell. I was playing the role of Adolf Hitler at the end of the movie, um, Little Nicky, and I took the gigantic pineapple right up the wazoo. SJ, do not. That's not the safe word, okay, SJ? That's not the safe word. Everybody's behaving in here tonight. SJ's doing a fantasy football thing, so that's why we're. Um, um, so anyway, let me go back over here. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. Uh, so I'm going to share my screen here. So, Mike, I was talking to SJ before the show, and she gave me a quote unquote safe word. Um, I had to tell her that the way that that conversation was going, that it's not the safe word. It's kind of like I'm gonna have to pull up that video in a second. Um, but anyways, here's what I said this morning. And Mike, if you saw this morning on Facebook, you would have saw this and saw the change, because I said that the two morning matcha would be a scratch because it hasn't rained here in a couple days. Well, apparently there was some sort of an incident on the turf at Parks, so they went off the turf today. A couple of trainers were saying that the a couple of the trainers were saying that the turf was unsafe, and trust me, it looks like Soldier Field in December right now. I mean, it is torn up. The break didn't help. The grass didn't grow, and they're probably going to race very sparingly on the turf through Kentucky Derby Day. Kentucky Derby Day, Jesus Christ, Pennsylvania Derby Day on September 21st. So, so it was off the turf at Parks. Go with the 2 in race 10 and make that double a Lawrence Welk, because originally I was 1 with 12, but because they moved it off the turf, Morning Matcha got in, so I told you to go with the Lawrence Welk double, a 1 and a 2. So you would have gotten about you would have made about $150 today if you played the $20 increment. Now, I will tell you for a fact um, that you know the only thing when it comes to this, um, when it comes to my articles, the only reason why I say $20 to win on this horse is because it's very easy math for me. It's just okay. If the horse pays 720 to win, like the horse in the ninth race at Parks, it's $72. Boom, easy thing on my so I did give you an update here because it was early enough in the day where I could do that. I did in the initial post, so that was everything with there. So back to the White Sox, as we're going on so many different tangents tonight. I mean, my ADD, ADHD, LMNOP is at an all-time high tonight. But so Chicago's lost 100 games in a season, 6 times in franchise history, first time in consecutive seasons. They went 61 and 101 under Pedro Grifol, who's probably the worst manager in Major League Baseball history, and Grady Sizemore is 3 and 11 this year. The record for losses is 106 in 1970. That will probably get broken next weekend, or probably next week, right after Labor Day. But they're at a record pace here, and it's sad because Chicago used to be a great baseball town with 2 teams, and you got the Cubs, which are meh, but they got their World Series a few years ago, and the White Sox, they're basically irrelevant except for the fact that everybody's watching from afar, hoping that they get to however many losses. But um, you know, but anyways, I know what I want to do here. So let me see if I can find this here real quick before I get to the Danny Jansen story, even though you already know it. Um, let me see. Um, okay, so I'm gonna play this video here um, because I was telling you about I was saying SJ, don't do this, but this is where the idea came from, and I'm going to share my screen again. Um, this is a little funny video here, and I'm sure Mike has seen this about 100 times because I probably shared it about 50. Let me share my screen again. So the way 6ABC does their things is they do traffic and weather together, just like all the other TV stations. And I think this might have been, I don't know if this was a morning telecast or an morning or afternoon one, but um, Jessica Boynton is with 6ABC. She's one of the few reporters that went from one Philly station to 6ABC. Usually go from 6 to either 10, 3, or 29. But here's what I thought about when I was telling you about the ending of Little Nicky and telling SJ to not do anything. But here's this is what came to mind as I was talking about that. Oops, 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 oops. Hold on. I'm a dope. Let me give myself one of those first. Now we'll go to the video. Here you go.
In addition to that, so the winter's not quite done with us on this last winter weekend, and my clicker doesn't want to advance anything. Magic. Is it the leprechaun? I think it is. They're being mischievous. All right, let me try this clicker and see if the leprechaun didn't get that one. Here's your exclusive AccuWeather. Now I'm double fisted in a different way. For St. Patrick's Day, mild with a shower and 62 for your high. Tomorrow, breezy, mostly sunny skies and 54. Sunday, that's the day wind chills near that freezing mark. 43 for your high, but when you're waking up at 7 a.m., I'm on the air Sunday. Tune in so I'm not alone. Wind chills just in the teens. Monday, a nice start to spring, a high of 53. Upper 50s on Tuesday, looking good, 59. Wednesday, mild, some sunshine, 60. Thursday, partly sunny skies and 57. And to another woman who likes to be double-fisted in a different way, I think, Jess.
She means beer. She means beer. Guys, she means beer. Don't put me on YouTube. My God. Yeah, we're going to take a pause and we're going to keep going.
So yeah, that was from last year, and oh man, sometimes you get these golden moments that you're glad that if you end up DVRing the news for whatever reason, you get a moment like this, or somebody is quick with their fingers that they posted on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. But that was from a year and a half ago, and probably something that Jessica Boynton will always hear for the rest of her time, how she got double fisted with beers or whatever. But anyways, on to the the Major League Baseball history that was made in Boston today. And I was talking about how Major League Baseball has changed the way that they do things with uh, rain delays, postponements. You see a lot more suspended games in baseball. Well, Danny Jansen, the backup catcher for the Red Sox, played for both teams in the same game. And I know what you're saying. What? Well, he actually played for both teams in the same inning of the game. I'll tell you what happened. Jansen became the first major league player ever to appear on both sides of a baseball box score when he took the field for Boston on Monday in the resumption of a rain-delayed game that which he started in Toronto for the Toronto Blue Jays in June. And it was the last game of a series. They tried to get the game in. They were probably saying, all right, let's see if we can get 5 in. The rain probably came early, and the next thing you know, it's suspended. But he was then between the suspension of the first part of the game and the resumption of the second part of the game. He was traded to the Red Sox. So on June 26th, when he was with Toronto, he fouled off the only pitch he saw from Boston pitcher Cutter Crawford in the second inning before the Tarks were called out. Now, on July 27th, he was traded from Toronto to Boston. Now, after the possibility of Jansen making history became a cause for celebration around the sport, Red Sox manager Alex Cora said last week he should play Jansen. When the suspended game resumes, saying, "Let's make history." So Jansen said today, "I was surprised when I found out I was the first one to do it. After going 1-for-4 for Boston, plus another at bat for Toronto in the 4-1 victory. It's cool leaving a stamp on a game like that, a stamp like that on the game. It's interesting and it's strange, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to have it. So when you look at the box score on ESPN, CBS, whatever you use, well, you should be using Bleacher Brothers, right? You will see him on both sides of the box score, which is interesting and weird at the same time. Now, before the game resumed at 2:06 today, it was a delay of 65 days, 18 hours, and 35 minutes. Public Relations Coordinator Davison Perez announced the changes in the Fenway Park press box. Pinch hitting for Danny Jansen, Dalton Varsho. Defensive changes. Danny Jansen now win at catcher because the catcher that was there at the start of the game before it was suspended, I don't have his name here, I don't think. The catcher was sent down to the minors. And he's not even on the 40-man roster, so he got DFA'd as well, but he's still with the organization. So, and if I see it here, I will mention it. With Jansen behind the plate, Nick Pivetta, former Phil, struck out Varsho. I think he was a Philly briefly, wasn't he? Or am I confusing him with Gary Varsho? Dalton Varsho completed the at-bat that Jansen started. Then Jansen came up for the Red Sox with 2 outs in the bottom of the frame, got a nice cheer from a sparse makeup day crowd, and hit a lazy liner to first base at the inning. Now, when the game began, before they announced the pinch hitter, they had a picture of Jansen on the scoreboard wearing a Blue Jays cap. So they were playing along with it as well. It wasn't like, 2:06, we're just going to put the guy there. It's like, well, we'll put that on there first. That's the weirdest first-time event in Major League history, I agree. But it was coming up on websites and sports talk probably for like the last couple of weeks, or probably since the trade happened. They don't mention a catcher that was that he subbed in for because he's in the minors, but before the first pitch, the umpires held an extended conversation at home with the coaches who brought out some of the weirdest lineup cards in baseball history. And also, because of the suspended game, you have different players that are available because, players move down, get traded, everything like that happens. Um, um, John Schneider, the Blue Jays manager, said, I think it's cool for him to kind of go down in the record books as the first player to do that. I've known Jano forever, and it's something cool that he can always say he was the first at, and he's good at weird stuff. Pretty cool for him. So I guess he's a weird dude. But now he said that he wore 2 jerseys in the game today, and he also wore his jersey with Toronto back on June, back in June. So he technically wore 3 jerseys overall: two today, 2 Red Sox jerseys. Um, he's going to keep one for himself, and he's going to send one to the Baseball Hall of Fame. An authenticator was on hand to tag all of Jansen's equipment. Uh, the Hall of Fame has requested a scorecard from the official scorer Bob Ellis, who was also working the game when it started in June. Hall spokesman John Shetakovsky, not shit a brick, Shestakovsky. Uh, the scorecard will be a great tool to document and illustrate this history, showing Danny Jansen's name on both teams. Now, the the closest thing that we had to something like this happening was back in, I think it was '85, and if you remember, Wrigley Field did not have lights until '88. So the Cubs would play every game at 2:20 Eastern, 1:20 Chicago time. So not sure if you remember this, but the closest thing to something like this happening was Joel Youngblood. He was with I forget. I think he was with the Mets when they were playing the Cardinals. He got a base hit. He was traded to the Montreal Expos, and Chicago to Philly's only an hour and a half. So he probably didn't even shower. He said, "F it if I stink. I'm just going right to the stadium." And Veterans Stadium, right next to Citizens Bank Park. Not far from the airport. He made it to the ballpark in time, and he got a base hit for the Montreal Expos. So Joel Youngblood, probably the only event that's similar to this, where he got a hit for both teams. He got a hit for 2 different teams on the same day when he was traded. So, a little baseball history today, and you know, like Mike said, it was the weirdest first time event in Major League history, and you never know, it may never happen again. And little something that comes up from time to time. So and so So we got a couple more stories here. I do appreciate everybody here tonight. Mike's here, SJ's here, Bank Boy's here. A couple of people lurking around. That's fine. I'm just as fine with people lurking around as people that are watching and communicating in chat, because we're more we're more than just uh, me reading off stories of stuff that I'm interested in, giving my opinions on things. Um, and Old Man Burger's here. Welcome in, man. Uh, you know, he's. Oh, and Mike, I forgot to tell you. If you haven't checked your email, I sent out invites for the Fantasy Football League. Um, I came up with the nickname. I came up with the league name for the one league, the league that you're in. Uh, I forgot to text you last night or early today because um, I had to write my article for today because I was just like, I had no motivation last night to do it, and also I was watching SJ play. And there was a little surprise at the end there, because I know you're not in SJ's Discord, and I know you're saying, "What the is Discord?" But there is a little surprise involved once you get an account on Sleeper, and there was a little surprise in there for you. We'll just leave it as that for now, and everybody else who's in that league, don't ruin it for them. So now I mentioned this to SJ today before the show started because I was trying to get things done and just you know talking a little bit and trying to do what I had to do and get things ready. Now I saw this the other day, and this was something that popped up on Friday, and this may go nowhere, or it may definitely go somewhere. Also because you may also get another school to go change leagues, even though will it happen or not, I don't know. But I mean, basketball with football and everything, you can kind of get away with having an odd amount of teams. But um, the Big 12 is in talks with UConn about joining their league in all sports. Sources confirmed to ESPN today, or on Friday, I should say. No vote has occurred, at least as of Friday. I don't think anything new has come up of this, of a potential Huskies membership, nor one is close to happening. But, I mean, I just look at the geographics, and truthfully, the geographics doesn't mean anything anymore. I mean, look at the Big Ten now with 4 teams on the Pacific Coast, and you have Stanford and Cal in the ACC. You know, it it isn't it isn't our younger years where you have 10 to 12 teams in a conference. Now you have 16, 18, 20. I mean, you're getting to a point where you just scratch your head at how many teams are in a conference. And by the way, congratulations to Florida State football because they are the first school in ACC history to be in 17th place right now with their loss to Georgia Tech on Saturday. But anyways, frequent flyer miles, yeah. hmm Now, the talks have advanced to a point where UConn athletic director David Benedict and on-board chair, I'm sorry, the board chair Daniel Toscano had met with Big 12 athletic directors in person in Dallas last week to make their case. Conversations centered around football funding and how UConn could be competitive upon joining their league in 2031. Now, I think that the way this is reading to me when I was highlighting, I think what's going to happen is they may delay football for a couple of years because they're an independent, but they may join in other sports first and then finally join in football. I think that's how it's going to work, but I'm probably wrong. Um, Now, part of UConn's presentation covered how the Huskies would be prepared to build and spend money on football like the current Big 12 programs. They also pitched the league on how quickly they became competitive in the Big East. Remember when Big East had football? They were one AA school. They jumped to Big East in 2004. Now, there is a board call planned this week for the Big 12. Um, a high-ranking Big 12 official said, "I think the word is premature. There's a far distance between conversations, anything that would happen. The presidents haven't seen the case yet." Um, okay, so it won't be until 2031. So at least that's what they're saying here, because I'm rereading what I highlighted here. The addition would be for all sports, and the delay to 2031 in football would give UConn a chance to catch up in terms of funding and talent upgrade through NIL. The Athletic first reported the potential board call and the talks. Okay, so my initial thinking was right here. The other sports, including UConn's dominant basketball programs, would be added whenever the school could negotiate or wait out a 27-month waiting period to exit the Big East. So let's say they announce December of this year. The way that this is reading to me, and I may be wrong, and don't be surprised if I'm wrong. Let's say end of December, because the the fiscal year begins July 1st, and you will see, UConn joins this conference July 1st, 20 whatever. Because their other sports are in the Big East, I believe it's all their sports. They have to give the Big East 27 months notice. So, okay, so that's 2 years and 3 months. So you're talking about, if it was like today, let's say it's August 31st, then it would be November, whatever. But they will time it in such a way where 3 months, so end of March of 20, let's say it was end of March 25, unless they negotiate a settlement with the Big East to leave early, they would join the Big 12 at the earliest 2027, if my numbers are correct. So that would be for all the other sports because they're in the Big East. Meanwhile, they would play as an independent until 2031, according to this, as of right now. And these are all preliminary talks. So, things can go down the crapper in a hurry. And the next thing you know, they're independent again, and maybe even but but I know SJ would prefer them in the Big East because they dominate the Big East in basketball. But the one thing they did say here, um, the Big Ten commissioner Brett Yormark has been bullish on basketball being more of a financial driver for the league's television contracts in upcoming years. UConn is the sports dominant program and touches the country's top market with a strong presence in New York. So the Big 12 wants to get that New York market. And, they would try to get a piece of that market from Rutgers, even though Rutgers is more Jersey and, they may even be closer to Philly than they are New York, but they are the New York market because Penn State is the Philly market, even though Penn State's closer to Pittsburgh than Philly. But, you are looking at Big 12 trying to get into a new market with um, if they can get UConn to go to the Big 12. But the question is, do you try to get a second team in that area? And, I really don't see anybody that's worthy of it. Maybe Syracuse if the ACC goes under because Florida State's trying to get out of that contract with the ACC. Clemson's trying to get out. Nobody wants to be in the ACC because he had that contract until 2035 or 36, where they're not making as much money from that contract as what they have now in the Big 10, in the Big 12. You do have all those contracts that, they made. ACC made the mistake of a 15, 20-year deal, and guess what? Nobody's happy about it in the ACC, and it could lead to their demise eventually. Kind of like how going to Apple was one of the mismanagement of the Pac-12, and that's why the Pac-12 is the Tupac, or soon to pack it in. But the Big 12 has 16 teams right now. They added Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and UCF last year, and they welcome Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State this year. And the one thing that they did, which was a smart move, the Big 12, and I said this last year. I think I was still on No Filter at the time. The one thing I said was that whole Four Corners region is basically going to be the battleground between the Big 10 and the Big 12. And the Big 12 got Colorado, they got Utah, and they got the two Arizona schools. New Mexico State, they don't really matter too much, but those four schools, the Big 12 got that region before the Big 10 did. And guess what? now their 16-team conference probably end up being 18. So, but we'll see what happens with UConn, and we may not hear anything for a while, if at all. Uh, but but UConn does have a football program that is pretty much an afterthought, whereas the other schools, they're making tons upon tons of money because they have these monster TV contracts, especially now Big Ten and Big 12 with new contracts, and the SEC with the new contract with ABC and ABC, ESPN, and Disney. So, they're all raking in the money. UConn, you know, I mean, even though it's a pain in the ass, that you got to do all this traveling. But if you think about it, I know I did this from when I was at Drexel. Even when I was taking the two weather classes to finish up my bachelor's degree, all the tests were online for those two weather classes. So, if you knew how to get those answers, you can just look it up and be like, boom, done. But you make sure you get a couple questions wrong. But I was always, you know, even with the labs that I had, I was usually among the first done. I'd be like, see you later, you know. But uh, so UConn is in talks with the Big 12, even though SJ doesn't really think it's a good idea. But in terms of football, maybe. But but um, Big 12 took in Colorado, and I talked to you about how it's like Grand Theft Auto in the Colorado locker room a couple of weeks ago. Well, apparently, Colorado has banned a reporter from asking Deion Sanders questions. Now, Colorado has banned columnist Sean Keeler from asking questions of football, coach Deion Sanders or other members of the football program. The school confirmed. After a series of sustained personal attacks on the football program, specifically Coach Prime, the CU athletic department, in conjunction with the football program, had decided not to take questions from the Denver Post's columnist Steve Keeler at football-related events. The department said in a statement provided to ESPN. Keeler is still permitted to attend football-related activities as a credentialed member of the media, and other reporters from the Denver Post are welcome to ask questions. A football program personnel made available to the media, including coaches, players, and staff. So they basically said, "Shut up, fool." Um, and Mike says, "Coach Prime has no time for questions." Agreed. But the thing that gets me, and maybe it's because it's the criticism of him going 4-8 on top of everything that was going on, and how I don't know if it was him that said this, but they were comparing the locker room to Grand Theft Auto. You know, I think that you are starting to see Dion being labeled a fraud here as a coach. It was good when he was at Jackson State, but the thing is, you're drawing the top players to a 1AA school, and they want to play for him. Well, no wonder why they were 12-0. They were beating everybody in the SWAC because SWAC sports isn't anything close to even the 1AA schools, or even if you want to compare basketball, they're always a 16 seed in the playing games. But now, according to the Post, the Colorado Athletic Department media relations staffer told the newspaper it took issue with Keeler's references to Sanders as Deposition Dion. I don't know what that is. The Bruce Lee of BS. That's a good one. I ought to remember that one. The Bruce Lee of BS. That's a good one. And a false prophet. Now, Dion's a religious man, so don't mess with him about that. Uh, and his use of phrases such as Planet Prime, the Dion Kool-Aid, and circus. The ban is indefinite, according to the Post. So, yeah, I think it was kind of like, if you remember the Flyer season this year, um, fellow classmate from the prep, Anthony Sanfilippo, he suggested that something about one of the former players was telling another player, oh, the um, the first round draft pick that didn't want to play for the Flyers, basically they traded him to Anaheim. So I think it, and if I'm got the story wrong, don't, it's not. I'm trying to keep it as accurate as possible. Um, he said that one of the former players told him to get out of Philly, which was untrue, apparently, according to John Tortorella. And every time Anthony would ask a question, he would say, "I'm not answering your question." Next. But he made him go to the thing and he made him ask the question, and then he gave him a snide remark, typical Torts fashion, and went to the next person. So, but it's kind of like this, except he doesn't even get a chance to ask the questions. He just has, if he's going to be at that press conference, he can't ask questions right now. So, um, the decision comes 2 weeks after a news conference where Sanders accused Keeler of always being on the attack and asked, "What happened to get you like this?" Added Sanders, "No, I'm serious. I want to help because it's not normal." But the thing is, you bring the spotlight to Colorado like Deion Sanders is, you are going to get criticism when your team goes 4-8. Remember how they went from 20 some point underdog to ranked in like 1 or 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, boom. Well, we got to see how much of a fraud Colorado was. Um, Now, during the exchange, Keeler asked multiple times if he could ask a football question, and Sanders declined before moving on to a reporter who asked about his birthday plans. The reporter before Keeler at the news conference had asked Sanders, "How important is it for everyone to have Affleck as part of their life?" Sanders is a paid spokesperson for the insurance company. Um, in the column after that news conference, Keeler described Sanders as a confident man who suddenly looked and acted and sounded ... afraid. Now, I think I'm on record a couple weeks ago, and if that's the case, then you can use it against me if it's still available on Twitch, and if not, you can probably find it on YouTube. Um, Probably, I think that if Sanders doesn't win this year, I think he's gone. Not because he's, not that he's not a good coach. Maybe he is a great coach. But the thing is, does Colorado really want to deal with this BS? Do you really want to deal with that? I mean, it's great you got the spotlight and everything, but but at what cost is it really worth it? That's my opinion. Now, but according to the Denver Post, Sanders does have unique language in his contract that says he is required to speak only with mutually agreed upon media. Remember when Dion used to just be that guy on the NFL Network that was a cool person? You got to the point where, okay, well, maybe Dion isn't the a-hole that I thought he was when he was in the NFL. And then this happened again. And maybe it's just an act. Maybe he's a cool dude away from the game. But I think he's feeling like he's on the hot seat here in Colorado. I really do. And I would not be surprised at the end of the year. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he would go and end up as an assistant's role, or an assistant to an assistant to an assistant on whatever NFL team Shador Sanders gets drafted on. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but I don't see Prime going to be with Colorado that much longer. I really don't. I think that he either goes back to 1AA, which I don't think will really happen, but I think it's more than just the questions. It's all these articles that are coming up. Now, I don't remember who wrote the article a couple of weeks ago about the locker room being basically Grand Theft Auto. Um, I don't think it was the New York Post that actually wrote that. They were writing about the article that came up. Probably was the Athletic. Might have been this guy. Who knows? But whatever it was, um, you know, it's just, I mean, it's almost like John Tortorella, but to a new level. You have, you're just not even, you're not even allowing him to talk. It's like, don't even talk in this room. You can take notes and whatever, but it's almost like, you know, if silence is golden, why is duct tape silver? You know what I mean? I mean, he doesn't even get the duct tape. He just sits there and not being able to speak, which is, maybe it's fair, maybe it's not fair, but whatever. So now, Denver Post sports editor Matt Schubert said it's well within anyone's right to not take questions from uh, Denver Post reporters and columnists. The reason listed here by CU, however, is entirely subjective. It would be more accurate to say we don't like Sean Keeler's critiques of the program. And, that's Tort's MO. Yeah. I mean, somehow Torts has survived so far with the Flyers. I thought he would just say "fuck this place" and leave, but he's proven me wrong with him being around here and the team turning it around here, and maybe they get a playoff berth this year. Who knows? But um, now, a Colorado sports information staffer told the newspaper Keeler had not violated any specific media policies. Well, if that's the case, why isn't he allowed to speak at these press conferences? Now, granted, you had the language in Dion's contract, so. Now, Sanders does have a history as a coach of using his influence to ban reporters from asking questions about his program. In 2021, a Mississippi Clarion Ledger reporter was barred from covering Jackson State, where Sanders was the coach, at the Southwestern Athletic Conference, or SWAC, Media Day, a day after the Clarion Ledger published a story related to a court filing about an incoming recruit who had been charged with assaulting a woman. And Colorado opens up Thursday against North Dakota State. Probably not the 1AA team you want to face to start the year, even though New Mexico played Montana State. Montana State should have been blown out. And New Mexico did have them on the ropes. And Montana State came back. They had 3 late touchdowns to win 35-31. Now, if you had New Mexico plus 13.5, congratulations, you're a winner. But you did not. But if you played Hawaii minus 39.5, minus 40, that was a loser. So much for my prognostication on Saturday on Also Eligible, where I basically said it's like the Ron Popeil rotisserie grill. Just set and forget it. Make the bet, go to bed. Well, guess what? You go to bed, you wake up, it's like, wait, they won by what? They only won by 20? And part of the reason why, and I'm not going to blame SJ on this, but she mentioned the line because I was just not going to touch the game, and SJ could probably uh, put me in timeout for this. She goes, "Oh, I'm taking Hawaii because I was mentioning how Delaware State missed their flight, and the reason why they went to New York for their flight was because it was the only place they would get a direct flight from the East Coast to Hawaii, whereas the other spots, Philly, Baltimore, I don't even know if they really looked into DC. Everything was connecting flights where you had to switch planes in LA, let's say. But um, so we went 1-1 last week. So we have a minor negative balance. I think it's 0.10 because I think it was minus 110 for the point spread or for the VIG. So we're that much uh, below zero right now, and hopefully when we meet back up on Thursday, well, we're going to meet back up tomorrow, but Thursday I'll give out a couple of games. I might give out a game tomorrow night for Thursday since I'm off on Wednesday, unless I do an extra show on Wednesday. But you know, I need that day off to recoup from this stuff. But um, but yeah, so we're looking at a 3-day week this week. Next week, the schedule's going to be all screwed up because I may do a stream on Saturday on the Bleacher Brothers site. Now, the one thing is, this is probably a conversation that AJ and I probably should have had off air, but but it came up in conversation because we were talking about Saratoga and Del Mar. Del Mar has their big day of the meet next weekend with the Pacific Classic. And I said, well, if the if the race card ends up where we have 3-4 stakes races in a row, we could do a sidecast because that's what we want to do for the Breeders' Cup as well. Even if it's just me hosting solo on uh, next Saturday. So that may be the case. So we'll see. So it'll just be a matter of whatever. So, uh, but uh, I'll probably have an announcement on Thursday about that because I think they announced the field on Wednesday. May even be tomorrow. I don't know where they are in terms of posting their fields for this week's races, but you will have races on Saturday from Del Mar on also eligible. We'll see what happens, what comes up this week on the Quills Picks winners articles I have. Tomorrow we're going back to Assiniboia Downs. We'll see if we can get 5 races in a row because I had the winner on Sunday at Saratoga. I scratched into that winner. Then we have 3 winners at Parks today, so that's 4. We're going for the thumb with Assiniboia, and then Wednesday we are going to Saratoga like we usually do, but we're only making a 1-day stop there because Thursday we are going to Kentucky Downs. And that track has the potential of major payouts. And the reason why is because they have a European style course where you have undulations in the course where you're running uphill for a little bit and then you're running downhill and then you're going to the right and then you're going to the left. I mean, it's like the guy who died from the hokey pokey. The reason why he never had a funeral is because they put the right foot in and then they took the right foot out. I love that joke. Anyways, so keep an eye out for those articles. On Facebook. If you're a Facebook friend of mine, I posted on X at Joe Quills. And I posted on a couple of different discords as well, and I have 14 winners already this month. Now, granted, I've looked at 46 races already, so I am hitting at a 30% clip so far this month, and in a way, I'm hoping I can get to 20 wins this month, but I don't think I have enough days and races to do so, unless I do like another 3, 4 race card between now and Saturday. Um, but we will um, get that squared away. So I almost want to say the magic word just to see what SJ will do, but I'm not going to. Because I know she's deep in thought with a fantasy football draft right now. I mean, she's like in 86 leagues. I mean, I'm in 3 or 4, which is a lot for me, but it is what it is. So, um, but you know, if anybody has anything else that they want to bring up, feel free to do so. Um, just that time of the show where we just go unscripted, and I think the one thing that's going to happen is the Bleacher Brothers Digital Network is going to be live on September 9th. So, and the website is going to get a major makeover as well. I think you'll be able to listen on the site as well. So you can listen on the site. You can watch on YouTube. You can watch on X. You can watch on Twitch. Now, I might be doing my main show on the Bleacher Brothers show. If that's the case, I'm thinking what we may do is an after party on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Uh, because I'll have to start at 9 o'clock, so it won't be like tonight where I start 15 minutes late because I got a little tied up with things, having to run to the store before the show started. So, um, but we will get everything ready for you here on this, and I'll make that announcement next weekend. So, uh, did Nola spend time in the minors? Um, he was in the minors for about a year or two. Um, let me see here. He was first round pick in the 2014 draft. He signed on June 10th, 2014. Played at the Class A Advanced Major League affiliate at Clearwater. Pitched 5 games. Went to Double A. So he was there for about a year. So the top pick usually, top picks, if you're really a guy that's going to advance like Nola did, they're going to make sure he's ready because, you're putting all this capital into him with the first round pick money, the bonus money. You want to make sure that bonus money is well spent. And obviously it was because he's here for another 6 years after this year. So, but he did spend a year in the minors, part of 2014, part of 2015. And, hopefully, um, hopefully tomorrow he beats up on the Houston Astros as the Phillies won tonight 3-2 in 10 innings down at the ballpark. Let me just check one thing here. The Braves are up 10-3 on Minnesota in the sixth, so it looks like the Phillies will not gain ground on the Braves tonight. In other action around the majors, Blue Jays won the suspended game today, 4-1. Games are still in progress. The Marlins are down 3-2 to the Rockies. Mariners are up 5-1 on the Rays. Mariners could gain a game on Houston in the standings. If they do, they will be they'll be 3.5 back, which is good because I have Seattle to win the American League West this year. And the finals from this evening. First game of the doubleheader, Royals beat the Guardians 4-3. Cubs beat the Pirates 18-8. I mentioned the Phillies game. Kansas City wins both games of the doubleheader. They win the second game 9-4. I know SJ would like this. The Yankees won 5-2 over the Nationals. The Blue Jays won the second game of their suspended game / doubleheader. They win the regular scheduled game 7-3. Padres beat the Cards 7-4, and the Tigers beat the White Sox 6-3. 101 losses for the Chicago White Sox. So that is your Major League Baseball scoreboard provided by yours truly. So we are at the end of the show here, and I do appreciate everybody that came in tonight. I appreciate SJ lurking. I did not have to use that code word. Let's see, Mike was here. Old Man Burger was here. Bank Boy was here. SJ was lurking, and we had a couple more lurkers in the chat. And I do appreciate people. Not everybody wants to talk, and that's fine. But we'll definitely get more people here, and this is going to bump my stats up a little bit because SJ is trying to get me to a Philly, and I do have 2 of the 3 prongs secured. It's just the number of viewers in a given show, and basically what would happen as a result of that is, you could cheer bits, where let's say you would do cheer 69 and you'll put a comment to it if you wanted to, or you just do cheer 69, send it, and I would get a piece of that. I think it's a 50-50 revenue split, whatever. I'm not that, and the thing is, I'm not a type of person that's going to ask for money or, and there's so many people you can subscribe to, but if you subscribe to me, I would definitely appreciate it. But, I'm not a person that will be saying, I'm trying to get my hand up high enough. I'm not going to be sitting there with my hand out saying, gimme, 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 because I saw that way too much with someone else in my family who will remain nameless, who Mike knows who I'm talking about. But, so that is it for now. I do appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. I have the day off, so hopefully I can get some things done that I've been putting off, and get ready for the show. And we'll do it live again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll try to start on time, because once September 9th comes around, I will have to start on time because we will be on our digital network. So, and I will tell you all about that digital network when we get closer to that date. So, so do appreciate everybody, and we'll do it live tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Bank Boy, thank you. Mike, thank you. SJ, thank you. Thank you for those that are lurking, and thank you for those that are watching on YouTube and X as well. And just a reminder, we are part of Bleacher Brothers here, so go to bleacherbrothers.com for all your sports needs. And also click on those links as well, whether it's the gambling portion or those other ads that are there. They're there for a reason. And if you click on the ads and use the specials that they have there, money goes into the Bleacher Brothers coffer. So check out bleacherbrothers.com. Maybe you're looking for an MLS jersey or baseball jersey or anything like that. Click on those links and ads. So have a great night, everybody. And I need a snappy close by September 9th. I'll figure something out. But until then, have a great night, everybody. Catch you in about 21 hours. Good night, everybody.